Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Second Cup of Coffee. Pastor Tom here with you. It's week 3 of our series, War, W-A-R. Again, we're using this as an acrostic, not so much talking about tanks and guns and bullets and that kind of thing, but more along the line of spiritual warfare and how to be effective in the battles that we face. We use that imagery a lot in Christianity because you see it in the Word of God. But the imagery sometimes takes us down places that I don't know that the Spirit intends us to go. And so I want to talk a little bit about this warfare of spiritual warfare. We talked about watch and respond, and then last week, wait and respond. There always needs to be a response, but when it's by the Spirit, it's going to be far more effective than if it's by my flesh. That's the heart tried to get across. I do want to kind of go back. If you haven't watched last week's, please watch it. I want to give an addendum real quick if I can that I missed and I should have said was at the end of waiting, or when I'm waiting, one of the things I need to be doing is praying for myself and praying for other people. We used Ephesians 6, and Paul says in that, beyond standing, he said, would you pray? Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit. The point there is praying in the Spirit. Be in the Spirit. Respond. Don't react. So pray for yourself, but also pray, and the situation, but also pray for other people and leadership. And because Paul says, and for me, verse 19, that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth and boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel. So, that is important. That is important. You've got to be vocal in your prayer, and I would say in your praise as well. You need to be consistent in your attendance, where you go to church. Why are those things important? You can't stand unless you got those things in order, right? And you need to be consistent in your reading. I wasn't going to talk about that, but apparently we need to. So just kind of watch last week's, take the first part of this week's, let them kind of go together and see what the Spirit of God might be saying in that, because I want to do it by the Spirit, not by my own fear or my own flesh. The acrostic for war this week is walk and respond. So I guess in some ways, right, these are going to go hand in hand. When I pray, I'm going to often hear from God, and what I hear from God is often going to require an obedience. Prayer and obedience go together, because if I'm talking to God, asking God, seeking wisdom, it says that He'll give it to me. And when He gives me wisdom, I have to obey it and walk it out. So let's move quickly. Acts 8. Acts 8 is one of my favorites. It is a story about a man named Philip who was one of the disciples. He is in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is in the midst of revival. People are coming to the church by droves. And then God says to him in verse 26, He says to Philip, He says, now an angel of the Lord spoke to Philip, saying, arise and go towards the south along the road which goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. Love this verse. Don't like to live it out, but it's interesting. 3 words, small little verse. God's keep drawing me to these small little verses. This is desert. He calls him to the desert when he's living in revival. So he arose and went. He prayed, he heard from God, and he was obedient to what God said, even though He drew him to some place that was going to look completely different than where he was. He drew him out of everything that was going on revival-wise in Jerusalem and drew him into the desert. Why? Because there was an Ethiopian there that needed to hear the gospel, but not just hear it. He's reading it. He's reading Isaiah the prophet, and Philip runs up to his chariot and says, do you know what you're reading? He said, how can I unless somebody walks me through it? Nobody could have walked him through it if Philip hadn't prayed, stood, waited, not reacted, but responded, and then walked out obedience. How would I define this as war or warfare? He is confronting the spirit of deception or the spirit over this man that would keep him from hearing and understanding. He walks him through the scriptures. He gets into a place where the man says, can I be baptized right here as we're coming up to this river? And Philip says, do you believe? And he answered and said, I believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Philip's like, that's all you need to do. He goes down, baptizes him. When they're coming out of the river, Philip is gone. And God moves him to a new place. You have to know that if you're willing to walk and respond, there will be a backloading of the Spirit of God in your life that will do miraculous things in your lives and in other people's lives. I can't prove this, but it's my conviction that that man went back to Ethiopia, started a revival there, probably started a church there, which overtook a nation and probably started the seeds of overtaking a continent. Why? Because Philip, in prayer, I believe, in a time of revival, in a time of prayer, in a time of visitation, heard from God, was obedient to go to a desert place which didn't look like it would be someplace he would want to be. And God intersected with Philip's life, an Ethiopian who needed to have somebody walk him through the gospel, that he would give his heart and life to Jesus Christ, that a country could be saved. And it wasn't just any Ethiopian. It was a man in leadership. God knows where these people are if we will fight the right fight. And that first fight is our own obedience. Walk and respond. You're going to see amazing things in Jesus Christ, and He's going to bring in the Spirit behind you that's going to absolutely do things that you can't imagine. We love you. God bless you. Please find us and like us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, our app. If it means something to you, you know somebody can be encouraged by it, please share it. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.